Welcome back, everybody. Phil here with No Limits Archery. I got Braden with me again. We're continuing on with the process of getting a new shooter acclimated and kind of understanding some of the basics in shooting a bow. Some of you that come in may have never shot a bow before, and that's perfectly okay. So we touched on release, how to learn to shoot a release, right? And Braden explained a little bit as to why it was important. Now, in this next video, what I want to focus on is if somebody's never shot a bow before, we want to make sure that they're understanding what the proper starting point from form and alignment and what it's supposed to look like when you shoot a bow. I mean, we have people that come in that, you know, whether they're pulling their bow straight back and not understanding the posture, it's important to at least get a glimpse, a generalization of that. So Braden's standing, we're actually on the shooting range right here. When you come in to demo shoot a bow, most times you're in our private tunnel where it's up close and just you're the only shooter there. But in a situation like this, Braden's going to be getting his feet about shoulder width apart. He's got his hips and his shoulders and everything is in alignment. Now, if you put, Braden's going to put his hands out like a T. If you can imagine just a basic shape of a T and bringing your hand in, that's pretty good basic form. So continuing on with the shot trainer, go ahead and Braden, hook on that release. This is a good time when somebody that's not shot a lot before, we're talking to them again. We're emphasizing the release execution in continuation with the process of shooting. But Braden, go ahead and draw that bow back. We started talking about anchor points. So a couple things we're looking for again is he needs to be standing pretty straight up and down. His head's not leaning down, not leaning into the string. Now again, with this type of tool, the bow's not there yet. But this is that kind of step right before that. So you'll notice a couple things that Braden's got good form. He's got relaxed shoulders. He's got a good front hand, which we'll talk about that soon. He's got a good front elbow. But Braden, talk just a little bit as you're showing somebody some of the mistakes that people make from a shot standpoint, and whether it's on the back shoulder or hips. Maybe show like an example of something that's not ideal from a starting position, right, and how we fix that.
Right, and it all starts at the foundation, like you stated. So, I mean, a lot of people, that's the first step is, okay, the target's going to be down there. We're going to be perpendicular to it, or some variation of that, right? I mean, I like to teach a little bit of an open stance, but right, that's 201 class versus just getting them started. So we get them started. The biggest thing we typically see is hip leaning because of the weight of the bow. Shooters think that if they use their body weight extra because they haven't drawn a bow, whether it's 40 pounds, 70 pounds, whatever it may be, they haven't drawn a bow or they haven't used those muscles. So a lot of times it's really heavy for them, and you'll see this. And I'm exaggerating, but you'll see a lot of the hip back because they're using their body weight, their upper body weight to hold that bow back, which is hard for us as technicians when we're trying to determine a draw length. That's really the biggest thing and importance to us is establishing that foundation and that proper setup so that we can actually get an accurate draw length, because right, it drastically changes your draw length if you're moving your hips. You will see a little bit of this, but not typically as much as the leaning back with the hip out. So talk about stacking our hips over our heels and then our shoulders over our hips and keeping that alignment just like you stated.
And then go ahead and come on this side, Max. You say that, Braden. Go ahead and draw that string bow again. One of the other things that we also look for is when Braden's lined up there, you're going to see his elbow and his forearm tracking right down that string. One of the things that we look at when we see improper fit is this, and that's one indicator that the bow is going to be too short. You might see where this is over rotated and somebody's really stretched out too far. So this is something that we want again, relaxed shoulders, good alignment. His posture is good where his shoulders and his hips and his heels are all vertically stacked. So one last thing I want to talk about before we move on from this video topic is front hand placement and front elbow placement. Braden's got a good grip. Go ahead and show to the camera. You want to kind of see your lifeline perpendicular to the target, or parallel to the target, I'm sorry, off to the side. If this grip is here, or if Braden's hand is where his knuckles are vertical, that's not a proper grip placement. The thing that you need to understand is relaxed hand, knuckles on about a 45-degree angle. All this hand is supposed to do is give front pressure to the bow. We don't want to have, because once he starts squeezing his hand, then you're going to see this release twist. You're going to see the bow torque. So front hand pressure placement is important. The other thing is elbow placement or elbow position. you'll see, especially in young shooters and ladies, this elbow will hyperextend to where it's in the track of the string of the bow. And that's where people get those big raspberries when they shoot their bow, because their elbow placement is slightly improper. So what we want to do, by rotating that hand out slightly, your elbow almost comes into an ideal position. Now you want a straight arm, but not a locked arm. A little bit of flex, and again, in contact. We don't want this, but we don't want hyperextended. So you want to have that strong front arm, almost if you're imagining you're drawing a rod through your forearm. And go ahead and turn a little bit for me, Braden. So that placement of weight is drawing all the way through into his shoulder. And again, if you do this, you've got weight coming this way and this way. Your muscles are going to fatigue, right? So we want that proper elbow placement, proper hand placement, so that way you can have comfortable shooting and you're going to fatigue less. So those are some of the things that we work on, basics, form and alignment with new shooters. And there's so many other things we get into. But having a little grasp of what we're looking for ahead of the game is important, because you could come in here with an hour worth of time and really get a lot out of that time if you're looking for a new bow setup, if you understand some of the basics as far as alignment and what we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and end this topic here. We're going to continue on with this series and bring you guys through the process of just getting started as a new shooter. So stay tuned.